A question, but we'll move on to the Secretary of State, and then if we have a chance, we'll get that when we finish here. Michele Reagan was first elected to the Arizona legislature in 2002 and transitioned to the Senate in 2010. She represents that she is a fiscal conservative, and she has been part of balancing the budget in Arizona. She has received awards as the best legislator. She has also received other awards as Small Business Guardian and received the Eye of the Eagle Award from the Small Business Association. She has acted as chair for the Senate Elections Committee, and she has pursued holding the reins on the voter registration issue. I try to abbreviate this so that we can get to hear her, and but I will say that she has been in the legislature, and she also points out she is from Chicago, and some of you are from there, so I will mention that. And so, Michele, we're glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
It's a witness protection county.
Well, it is wonderful to be up here with you tonight. And thank you so much for having us and for being here and listening. Again, my name is Michele Reagan. A little bit about me. Yes, I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago. There's some other south suburban transplants here. 3 days after I graduated from college, the Reagan family packed up the cars, and we moved out to Arizona. And we moved to Arizona for what I call not just the American dream, but the Arizona dream. And that is, we wanted to start a business, and anyone who's from Illinois knows that it's very mandate heavy and very tax heavy. Besides the fact that my mother was going to Arizona come heck or high water, so the rest of the family better follow suit. I told my parents I would come out to Arizona with them and help them get this business started. And I said, I'll come out for 1 year, and I'm going back to Chicago. Obviously, I never did that. That was over 20 years ago. We came to Arizona knowing hardly anybody. And we were able to open up a sign company. It's still there today, called Fast Signs on Central Avenue. We grew it to be one of the largest sign companies of its kind, with a lot of hard work and a lot of love. And we ended up selling it about 10 years later. And while I was working for our family-owned business, I saw something that I learned at a pretty young age, because I was in my 20s then. And I saw what government interference can do, and what it can do to your business. And yeah, we were just a small sign company. We had banners and posters. We had about 20 employees. That's a lot of banners and posters to make payroll. And I saw what it was like when government would come in and say, you can't use this particular kind of paint anymore. You have to use this kind, even though this kind costs a lot more money. Or you can't use this kind of equipment. Or you have to do this for your employees. Or you have to post this sign in a certain place and in so many languages. And so I got my interest was piqued in politics and in policy. I joined the Young Republicans, which was a sad little group at that time, 8 or 9 people that met in the basement of a library. And one of my friends and I joined the Young Republicans and took over that club and grew that to be the biggest Republican club in the state at that time. Became, like I said, fascinated and completely addicted to public policy, and annoyed at the fact that at the state capitol there were so few people who understood the plight of the small business person. And where government comes in and seems to think it's a bad thing that you're making a buck. And they should celebrate that. They should think that's a wonderful thing. So obviously the better that they do, the better government does. But certainly the better the economy does. And we had this groundswell of young Republicans at that time, and this was over a decade ago. Many of us ran for office. Many of us are still around the Capitol in different roles in government service or in civic service. We had a big groundswell. It was phenomenal. So I got down to the Capitol, and I wanted to be follow my passion, which was commerce and economic activity. And so I begged the Speaker of the House at that time, and I know I'm new, but I really, really want to get on the Commerce Committee. Commerce Committee is where it's at. I really want to be on it. I was very lucky. He put me on the Commerce Committee. Not only did he put me on the Commerce Committee, he made me the Vice Chair. And I broke a lot of barriers at the Capitol. I was young. I wanted to be on these big time committees that people had to wait to be on. I served on the Commerce Committee, and I actually was the chair of the Commerce Committee, the youngest female chair they've ever had. I served on that for 6 years. And when I was the chair of the Commerce Committee in the House, we laid the foundation for a lot of the economic bills that you see today, the ones that we started the process of lowering the corporate income tax rate. We started the angel investing bills, which attracts venture capital here. Research and development was one of my passions. I ran the research and development pieces of legislation. In fact, when I toured a company a couple months ago in the air park, they said they hired their first 7 employees with research and development money, and that really warmed my heart because I actually got to see a piece of legislation that I ran in action and providing jobs for folks. And then I moved over to the Senate. The Senate president gave me a new responsibility. States never had an elections committee before, and he created an elections committee and he made me the chair. And I had been immersed in numbers and economic bills for 8 years. So I had a learning curve about like this. And so I did what any good lawmaker would do. I pulled around people who knew a lot more about elections than I did, and I learned from them. And I'm the one last year who went and fought against some of the gaping holes that we have in our legislation when it deals with elections. The mass ballot collection, the fact that people go door to door in vans and collect ballots, and yes, it happens in every county, unfortunately. And you might say, well, does that really happen in big numbers? I actually had a gentleman come to my committee and personally testify that he turned in over 4,000 ballots last general election. Now, I'm not accusing him of doing anything wrong, because what he did was 100% legal, and it shouldn't be. I ran a very comprehensive package of bills last year aimed at protecting the integrity of your vote. So when you turn in your ballot, you not only know that your ballot's being counted, and it's being counted in a timely manner, but you also know your vote isn't being canceled out by someone else who's turning in 2 ballots, or 100, or 1,000. Very big problem. We are the only state in the country that allows this activity. It should scare every single one of you. I know it scared me. We found many instances of pieces in our election law that needed to be updated. A lot of it's kind of technical and might not sound very sexy, but it's things like the early ballot list. How many people like to vote early? I love to vote early. You get that ballot, you drop it off, you mail it in, but if you forget to mail it in, you can walk it into a polling place. And do you remember when we had the rise last year of provisional ballots, a 2,000% increase in some districts of provisional ballot use? What was that? Why was that caused? It was because people didn't understand how to use that early ballot system, and it was also because there were people getting early ballots that shouldn't be getting them. People that aren't even here anymore, people that have moved, people that are no longer with us. Live ballots going to homes where individuals are not there. Mayor Smith mentioned San Luis. I had an interesting story from down there, a post office box down in San Luis. Almost 30 people registered to that one post office. I'm not sure if they have really tiny houses in San Luis or very big post office boxes, but it's a problem, and it's gone overlooked for far too long. And I'm just going to wrap up by saying that if you look at what the Secretary of State's office is, and yes, it is the de facto lieutenant governor, and that is very important, but if you look at the daily jobs of the Secretary of State, it is an administrative position, and it handles 2 main things. It handles the complex business filings in the state, and it handles and monitors the state's election system. And then you look at what I've done in the legislature. 8 years working on commerce issues, 6 of those as the chair. Years now working in the Senate as the elections chairman. Business and elections, business and elections. The very 2 pieces of law that for some reason I've gravitated towards are exactly what the Secretary of State's office is. I think that I would make a wonderful Secretary of State. It's a job I actually really want to do, and I'm very excited and hope to get to do that. I look forward to your questions, and I hope to earn your support and your trust, because it would be an honor and a privilege to serve as your Secretary of State. Again, my name is Michele Reagan.
Thank you. Now